Tonight's review will be rated M for mature audiences and will contain adult themes and coarse language. Viewer discretion is advised. It has never been a good time to get back into Power Rangers for what seems to be leading towards its deathbed 2 years earlier. And here I'd never been intrigued to purchase Power Rangers products in the years since. Never in the entire line of Bandai America's failed attempt to appeal to the adult collectible market. And it shows how much they failed to captivate a larger audience outside of those who only care so much about Mighty Morphin. As if Mighty Morphin was the only season they had watched, it wasn't even that good. Okay, it was groundbreaking for a time, but it was not the best. Because Bandai of America is begrudgingly uncomfortable of stepping outside of that one season not everyone likes. It brought over the mentality that they were pressured into making these products just to waste time with fans. And so much time was wasted that not everything that was deemed marketable was even made. They had a whole decade to deal with this license, and what did they do with it? Absolutely fucking nothing. And you keep telling me to buy this shit to support it or it dies is not a good marketing strategy. It's just pressure that they know that Power Rangers as a whole is not marketable because they can't market their own franchises. They couldn't even market Dragon Ball for fuck's sakes. Just look at the toys. And who are they supposed to appeal to when the show airs on Adult Swim out of all channels in the United States? So it was obvious that they would never want to do Power Rangers anymore during the last years of their run. By the time that the master license was handed over and then later brought out by our overlords known as Hasbro had been either doubtful or just been plain grace. Thankfully, I was touched, because all I can say is how they can screw this one up. They screwed over G.I. Joe. For a time, with most fans being judgmental of its modern redesigns, Hasbro wasn't seamless with the transition to Marvel Legends after it was passed on from Toy Biz. Obviously, these were the most notorious examples of their past blunders, but I wanted to state this as this is a reflection of what happens when you don't plan your products well. Fortunately, this was not the case with Power Rangers, and unfortunately, I, for one, have started to love this line more than I wanted to. They were the perfect scale, had decent sculpting, and didn't look like wogs at your local gym. The only problem is I'll take wogs over anatomically incorrect duds. Which brings us to our specimen, a Wave 5 figure I wanted to fill a void in my collection space. If you're an idiot like me and have eventually bought one half of a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive 2-pack in the hopes that you'll be able to purchase the other half later, thankfully I was not in the rush to buy the other half, and thankfully I had patiently waited for the other half to come in circulation. Sure, it benefited me, but does it raise some questions about why people can get mad about a mass release of a figure that was once originally hard to obtain at the time? People are going to get mad because they hunted down an exclusive long gone since the last San Diego Comic-Con, or just a figure that was already released. And if you're that person who hates reissues, I have to say to you, why? You don't even have to buy the reissue if you don't need to. Or you can replace the originals with reissues if they suffer from severe flaws. But enough of that, I need to focus on the figure. For one, it sure beats the hell out of the other figures that are within this collection. It stands out primarily how Kingranger was designed back in 1995. The gold on this figure stands as a strong focus point, and you don't seem to care about anything else. It's not gold, but for plastic injected gold, it's fairly decent. But it would have benefited better with more paint applications on other scrub details on the figure. Sure, there's some paint errors on my specimen specifically with the overpainting on the gold sleeves and the lack of paint application on the boots. Also, the armor is somehow overdone with the panel wash, but those are really minor setbacks and it really isn't a mass issue that exists on every figure. And if you're really nifty, you could just acetone it off or just use like a thinner. With an alternative set of accessories that don't mirror the original release, they seem to be a derivative enough to hold its own weight as a standalone figure. This can also be viewed as an army builder for Trey of Treforio, which was essentially 3 triplet actors that was dubbed over by the great Brad Hawkins. And which triplet was it if you were especially curious, but then again, who cares? Most collectors would just buy the 3 of these figures and just so they can make a 3-man group of Treys. One thing I would like to think about this figure is how there's a big fuck you right towards Bandai of America who failed to create a decent Gold Ranger Kingranger figure within this collectible scale. Obviously suffering from the proportion issues and the rubbery accessories that fails as a standalone figure. One thing people were disappointed the most was the lack of actual gold. Instead, it was a combination of injected molded plastic that was nowhere near gold, instead looking like butterscotch yellow or orange. Intentional or not, and not discussing what happened during the manufacturing process seems to be a weak take against collectors who seem to have anticipated this release. The prototype was promising and it seemed that they were pressured to go within that direction. But they had it. You either do it well or not do it at all. And it seems that Bandai of America had chosen to do a half-assed attempt and to fool their consumers like they don't care about the Power Rangers whatsoever. Oh, I also need to mention this, and if you're just gonna say I'm complaining about a $20 action figure, these things cost $65 in my country. $65. I'm not kidding. We weren't screwed over as now as much as 4 years ago. We can thankfully regret that chapter in toy collecting history, and to think that there's potential in this line. But it's only been a year, and there has been strong and weak releases from Hasbro, but not to the point where they were indefinitely horrible as many other toy lines have blundered over the years in Hasbro's portfolio. Could I ever recommend this figure? Is a definite yes if you're in need of free trays or missing a Gold Ranger like myself. There really aren't many alternatives of this scale widely available. Here's the thing. The Power Rangers division seems to take things on track, but despite being attracted to Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, they consider designing and manufacturing alternative series to at least please this section of the consumers that will be immediate loss in sales. I'm one of those alternative consumers, but I suspect that Mighty Morphin will not be forever forgotten, but will never be oversaturated. Thanks for checking out the review. Oh shit, I actually don't even know what to say actually, to be honest. You can like the video and subscribe if you like. I'm not gonna force you. I mean, you could, but I don't really care at this point.